Hi, I'm Catherine Doyle, author of the magical middle grade adventure, The Lost Girl King. The Lost Girl King is about siblings Amy and Liam who go to stay with their gran in the west of Ireland one summer. And while they're there, they accidentally stumble through an ancient waterfall that leads to the mythical land of Tirnanog, a kingdom where time itself stands still and nobody grows old. It's supposed to be this incredible paradise, but Amy and Liam quickly realised that Tirnanog is cursed. Poor Liam is kidnapped by a terrifying band of shadow riders and spirited away to Silverstone Castle, where the evil sorcerer Tarlock lives. It's up to Amy to try and rescue her brother, and to do that she has to gather together a troop of the most fearless warriors in all of the land, so that they can cross the cursed rolling plains of Tirnanog together and try and save her brother and the entire kingdom before it's too late. The Lost Girl King is an epic, adventurous quest full of magic and fantastical creatures, but mostly at its heart it's a story of courage and just how far you will go to save the person you love most in the world. When I was a little girl, my dad used to read me bedtime stories all the time, and my very favourite bedtime story was the Irish legend of Tirnanog, which is the story of a mythical, beautiful kingdom where nobody grows old or frail or ill, and time itself stands still. And so when I sat down to write The Lost Girl King, I started thinking about what I loved most about the legend of Tirnanog, and I thought maybe it would be really fun to reinvent this old legend for a new audience and see what would happen if two children from today's modern world accidentally stumbled into this kingdom. And what if the kingdom, instead of being blessed, was actually cursed? And that was the very first idea I had, and it blossomed into the book, The Lost Girl King. I've always imagined Tirnanog to be like a wonderful paradise fairy tale kingdom where there's a huge castle and a king and a queen, and all of the flowers are in bloom and the trees are bigger than any you've ever seen before. It's a land draped in eternal summer where there are no worries and no grief and no illness. A perfect paradise full of magic and adventure. And if you're asking, would I like to visit Tirnanog? The answer is a definite yes. In fact, I want to visit Tirnanog so badly, I think I would go even if it was cursed, and then I would try to rescue it, just like Amy and Liam do. And now, as a special treat, I'm going to read a very short section from The Lost Girl King. Chapter 3, The Cursed Sun. Amy watched her brother shuffle through the thundering waterfall, feeling like her heart might burst with excitement. Liam, however, was not enjoying this new terrifying water feature. He tried to back up, but there was nowhere to go. The rock was sheer and flat behind him now. It nudged him forward until he was caught full force in the waterfall's icy deluge. Amy had already clambered out of the glistening blue pond. She jumped up and down now, waving her arms above her head. "Look at the trees, Liam! They're as big as skyscrapers!" Liam cleaned his glasses on his sleeve as he sloshed through the water and looked up at the biggest trees he had ever seen. They were bigger than Big Ben, bigger than a California redwood, maybe even as big as the Eiffel Tower. But far stranger than that, the grooves in their trunks kept shifting, like there were hundreds of faces trying to peer out at them. Amy felt like she had strayed into a daydream. She looked for the white hawk, but it had disappeared into the forest. "What is this place?" said Liam as he clambered out of the water. Amy turned on her heel, a smile tugging at her lips. "Isn't it obvious?" Liam shook his head in a bluster. "Tirnanog isn't real," he told his sister and himself. "Look, there! There's a nose in that trunk," said Amy, pointing to a face in a nearby tree just as it disappeared. "You definitely don't see that in Connemara." She grabbed his hand and led him through the clearing. "Come on, let's look around. I'll find even more proof." The trees were huge and gnarled and twisting. Their velvety leaves looked as big and soft as pillows, and their branches were home to trilling ruby-chested robins, emerald green larks, and golden bright starlings that flitted about like sunbeams. "Have you ever seen birds like this back home?" she said over her shoulder. "No," said Liam reluctantly, "but I've seen plenty of unusual-looking animals in my favourite nature documentary, so it doesn't necessarily mean—" "Look!" Amy pointed to a gap between two trees where a crimson-coloured squirrel was peeking out at them. I think that one's spying on us. Perhaps it was her imagination, but she could have sworn the squirrel scowled at her before skittering away into the woods. The branches peeled back to let them through, and they spotted a trickling river just up ahead. Quick and careful, if you please. I'll lead you safely through the trees. Amy snapped her chin up. Did you hear that? I swear someone is singing. Liam was staring at the water, his eyes wide behind his glasses. I think it was... He gulped. Never mind. The water danced and swirled at their feet, flicking droplets at them. The longer they stared at it, the brighter it became, as though it were somehow lit from within. I glow where the wood is dim. Walk astride or come and swim. Amy gasped. It's coming from the river. Liam felt like he was about to pass out. But that's impossible, he said weakly. Amy smirked at him, for it wasn't impossible at all. It was simply Tír na nÓg.